Making fine espresso is a game of variables, and to get control of those variables requires a bunch of measurements. Hey espresso lovers, Mark here from WholeLatteLove.com. So today I'll go over the basic measurements, why they're important, some starting points and ranges for the measurements. We'll find out just what the heck a bar is, and stick around for the end to find out how all of this plays into grind size adjustment, which is perhaps the most critical variable. So why do we measure all these things when making espresso? Well, like I said at the top, espresso is a game of variables, but those variables play into another word you'll hear a lot when making espresso, and that's consistency. So when you make adjustments to one variable, we want to keep the others consistent. That allows us to judge the effect of a single change. So the measurements we are concerned with are weight, temperature, pressure, time, and volume. For weight, we are measuring the dose of coffee in the portafilter. For a standard double espresso, most people will use around 17 or 18 grams of coffee. Now, there are reasons to go with less or more, but that 17 to 18 grams, that's a good place to start. The most accurate way to measure is with a scale. So tear it out with a portafilter, grind, and then weigh it. If you don't have a good accurate scale, you can just grind into a double shot basket, overfill a bit, and level it off. Now, that's not as accurate as a scale, but this method usually puts you in a good range, and if you fill and level the same way every time, you should get a dose that's fairly consistent, probably within half a gram or so. Other options for consistent dosing are grinders with built-in timing functions, and there are even grinders that automatically grind to a preset weight. For temperature, we want to know the temperature of our brew water. Now, this can be a little tricky depending on the type of machine you are using. Whatever machine type you are using, make sure it's fully warmed up and the portafilter is locked into the group when not in use, so it's warmed up as well. For espresso and most coffee methods, we want a brew temperature of 195 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. On dual boiler machines with PID control, it's easy just to set the temperature you want, and when everything is warmed up, that is what you will get. For machines with heat exchange boilers, flushes are used to adjust temperature. In these machines, the initial shot of brew water is almost always above 205 degrees. So prior to attaching the portafilter, brewing is turned on briefly to flush out the over temperature water. Typically, you'd flush for a few seconds beyond the point when the water coming from the group has calmed down, indicating that it's below boiling point. From there, you can adjust brew temperature by continuing to flush for a few more seconds to go cooler, or a few less for a hotter brew temp. On single boiler machines or entry-level machines with thermoblock boilers, temperature control is, well, even trickier. It's not unusual for these machines to have brew temperature swings of 10 degrees or more, depending on where they are in a heating cycle. Now, there are ways to manipulate brew temps on these, but those techniques are pretty machine specific and involve a bit of guesswork. The best basic advice I can give you is to fully warm up these machines with the portafilter and the brew. Give the machine a short flush and then brew shortly after the machine indicates it's back up to brew temperature. For brewing pressure, some machines, typically higher end ones, will have a gauge that reads in bars. Now, if you're not familiar with pressure measured in bars, 1 bar is the atmospheric pressure at sea level, which is about 14.5 pounds per square inch. 8 to 9 bar of pressure is what we are looking for when brewing espresso. Now, if your machine does not have a brew pressure gauge, don't worry, as you can use extraction timing to determine if you are in a proper brewing pressure range. When timing, measure the time it takes to produce slightly over 2 ounces or 60 milliliters of espresso. What we are looking for is a range of 20 to 30 seconds from the first drip of espresso to produce that double shot of a little over 2 ounces or 60 milliliters. Brewing pressure and extraction timing are controlled by slight adjustments to grind size and dosing weight, and to a lesser extent by things like pre-infusion and brew temperature. Now, if timing is under 20 or over 30 seconds, work with grind size first while keeping the coffee dose consistent. Go finer to slow the extraction and coarser to speed it up. After adjusting grind, you can adjust the dose to fine-tune your shots as well as temperature. In the end, assuming you're working with a quality whole bean coffee, grind size is the most important factor when making espresso. Being able to consistently control other variables like dosing weight and brew temperature allow you to dial in a grind size that produces the best possible espresso from the coffee you are using. Hey, would you like to learn more about espresso and everything coffee? Well, be sure and subscribe to our channel. I'm Mark, and I hope you'll be back soon for more of the good stuff on everything coffee, brought to you by WholeLatteLove.com. Hey, why not subscribe now for easy free access to more videos on everything coffee, brought to you by WholeLatteLove.com.